Rule number 1, applications. All vessels must comply with these rules. Vessel can upon high seas or in the navigable waters connected with the high seas. High seas, open ocean, not part of internal waters. Rules number 2, responsibilities. All are responsible not only to comply with the rules but also to avoid collisions. Covers the responsibility of the master, owner, and crew to comply with these rules. Rule number 3, general definition. It is include description of the watercraft, including non-displacement craft, seaplane used is or capable of being used as mean of transportation of waters. The power driven vessels means any vessel propelled by machineries. Part B. Steering and sailing rules. Section. Conduct of vessels of any condition of visibility. Rule for applications. This section apply in any condition of visibility. Rule for 210. The applicable in any condition of visibility, even in sight of one another or not. These rules are applicable.
So, rule number 5. Every vessel shall at all times maintain a proper lookout by sight and hearing, as well as by all available means appropriate to the prevailing circumstances and conditions, so as to make a full appraisal of the situation and risk of collision. Lookout is very important and should take about 70 to 80% of the watchkeeping officer's time, and the rest is the full appraisal of what he sees and see the action that taken by him. Lookout is also for getting feedback on the action that he or the other vessel took. Lookout means to see and understand the situation by sight, hearing, as well as by other means such as radar, GPS, or by any electronic device. And that's all. That's the rule 5 lookout. Rule number 6, safe speed. Every vessel shall at all times proceed at safe speed so that she can take a proper and effective action to avoid collision and be stopped within distance appropriate to the prevailing circumstances and conditions. Meaning, any vessel which is sailing has some safe speed. With that, it can cause trouble for others as well as to yourself. If the speed is very slow and the current is very strong, you may drift to the other vessel. So a low speed is out of these circumstances. If the speed is more and the steering fails, then she would move away from her course line until the danger very fast without maybe even an emergency realized. So safe speed means that the ship sails at safe speed, at a speed which, if any emergency occurs, she would come out of the emergency without anybody getting injured. This is the fact that under any circumstances, the speed should be at that vessel and take an effective action to avoid danger. This includes maneuvering to keep out of the way, slowing down, stopping to allow other vessels pass clearly. In determining the safe speed, the following factors shall be among those taken account. Number 1, letter A. Vessel by all vessels. Number 1 is the state of visibility, the traffic density including concentration of the fishing vessels and any other vessels. The maneuverability of the vessel with special reference to stopping distance and turning ability in the prevailing conditions. Number 4 is at night presence, the background light such as from shore lights and from backscatter of our own lines. The state, you should also consider the state of wind, sea and current and proximity of navigational hazards. And the last one in the letter A is the drought relation available, the depth of the water. Number B is additionally by vessels with operational radar. Number 1 is the characteristic, efficiency, and limitation of the radar equipment. Number 2, any constraint imposed by the radar scale such in use. Number 3 is the effect of the radar detection of the sea state, weather, and the other source of interference. You should also consider the possibility that a small vessel, ice, and other floating material objects may not be detected by radar at an adequate range. Number 5 is the number and the movement of the vessel detected by radar. And the last one is the more exact assessment of visibility that may be possible when radar is used to determine the range of the vessels or other objects in the visibility. That's the rule number 6, safe speed. Rule number 7, risk of collision. A. Every vessel shall use all available means appropriate to the prevailing circumstances, arid conditions to determine if a risk collision exists. If there is any doubt, such risk shall be deemed to exist. It means if the watchkeeper is in doubt, even the slightest, he should take or assume that the risk exists and act according to the rules. Of course, in judging risk, he should take consideration the conditions of the time, the state of sea, traffic density, and etc. All available means to assess the risk means all that is available to watchkeeper, visual bearing, radar tracking, or observations at flat sound signal VHF and the like. In A, taking all above, the watchkeeper has to judge whether even the slighter risk exists, and if the slighter chance exists, this means that he shall note that as a risk if there is any small chance. Letter B. Proper use shall be made of the radar equipment and fitted and operational including long range scanning to obtain an early warning of risk of the collision radar plotting equivalent to the systematic observation of the detected objects. C is the assumptions shall be made on the basis of scanty information, especially scanty radar information. If the target has been observed once in a while, then it means it is not correct. Because target swap take place frequently on the radar. This gives the scanty wrong information. After judging the vessel, track and risk factor has to ensure that the data that watchkeeper has obtained is true. Kaya you also need to check it properly. Information. In determining risk collision exists, the following considerations shall be among taken into account. Number 1 is that such risk shall be deemed to exist if the compass hearing of an approaching vessel does not appreciably change. A small change should be therefore viewed with suspicion, and doubt should arise in the mind of the observer. The last one, and it is the number 2, is such risk may sometimes exist when appreciable bearing change is evident, particularly when approaching vessel is very large or a tow or when approaching vessel as at close range. That's the rule number 7, risk of collision.
Rule number 8. Action to avoid collision. Every possible action must be made in ample time and with observance of a good seamanship shall be taken in accordance with the rules. If alteration of course or speed are to be made, other vessels must be aware, and that if it is in a restricted visibility, it must be large enough for other vessels to see it on the radar. And if the provided room is sufficient, alteration of course may be the best to avoid close quarter situation. And if and only if it is made in good time and if it doesn't lead to another close quarter situation. If more time is needed to assess the situation, slowing the speed or stopping or reversing the means of propulsion is necessary. And if a vessel shall not impede the safe passage of another vessel, if it is needed, early action must be made to have a sufficiency rule. A vessel required not to impede the safe passage of another vessel is not relieved of the obligation when approaching another vessel with the risk of collision. And a vessel which passage is not impeded is fully obliged to comply with the rules. Rule number 9, narrow channel. A vessel in a narrow channel must keep right. A vessel below 20 meters of length or a sailing vessel shall not prevent the passage of another vessel, which can only navigate safely in a narrow channel or fairway. A fishing vessel shall not impede or prevent the passage of another vessel navigating in a narrow channel or fairway. A vessel must not cross a narrow channel or fairway if crossing impedes the passage of another vessel. The vessel crossed can be sound signal in Rule 34D. Overtaking in a narrow channel can only occur if the vessel to be overtaken permits safe passing. The vessel which is overtaking must indicate her intention by sound signal in Rule 34C. The vessel overtaken sounds the signal that she permits safe passing prescribed in Rule 34C. And if in doubt, sound signal is in Rule 34D can be sounded. However, this rule does not relieve the overtaking vessel of her obligation under Rule 13. A vessel approaching a bend of a narrow channel, which may be obscured by an obstruction, shall navigate with alertness and caution and sound the appropriate signal in Rule 34E. And also, avoid anchoring in a narrow channel. Rule number 10, traffic separation scheme. This rule states that traffic separation scheme that is adopted by the organization does not relieve any vessel from her obligation to the rules. A vessel using traffic separation scheme shall go with the flow, keep clear of traffic separation line or zone. When entering or leaving a traffic line separation, a small angle of approach or departure is required to contrast the vessel from one crossing the scheme. And avoid crossing traffic lanes but if needed. Crossing on a headlight shall be right angles to the general direction of traffic flow. A vessel which are not less than 20 meters in length, Sailing vessels and fishing vessels shall not use the inshore traffic zone if the vessel can use the appropriate traffic lane adjacent to the traffic separation scheme. A vessel aside from crossing or joining a lane shall not enter or cross the separation line except to avoid immediate danger to engage in fishing with the separation zone. A vessel in areas near termination of TSS shall do not cease with particular action. A vessel shall not avoid in TSS or areas near termination. A vessel engaged in fishing shall not prevent the passage of other vessels in the traffic lane. A vessel less than 20 meters in length or sailing vessel shall not impede the safe passage of power-driven vessel which is following the traffic lane. And a vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver which is engaged in laying, servicing, or picking up submarine cable with the TSS is exempted also to comply the rules to carry out the operation. Number 11. Application. Rule in this section apply to all vessels in sight of one another.
Rule number 12. Sailing vessels. When each has the one of the wind different side, the vessel which has the wind on the port side shall keep up the way by other. It said, when the two vessels are approaching each other to avoid any collision, must be shall keep up the way of other vessel. And for the purpose of this rule, the windward side shall be dim to the side, opposite on that which mainsail carried in the wind, K-square ring vessel to the side opposite to that on which the largest fore and aft sail is carried. Rule number 13. Overtaking. It said, when overtaking, there's a proper direction and 22.5 degrees of Herbin, that is the such position with the reference to the vessel that she overtaking. And according to the picture, it said it must pass a vessel before overtaking. And you can overtake each side of the vessel by you must keep out of the vessel to avoid any collision. And now understanding any contained in the rule part B section 1 and 2, any vessel overtaking and any shall keep up the way of other vessel being overtaken. Rule number 14. Head-on situation. When two power-driven vessels are meeting on reciprocal or nearly courses so as to involve risk of collision, each other shall alter her course to the starboard and each side shall pass on the port side by other. When a vessel is any doubt so as whether such as situation exists shall be assumed and does not exist and act accordingly. Crossing situation. When two power-driven vessels are crossing so as to involve risk of collision, the vessel will go to the point of the starboard side and keep out of the way to avoid ahead of other vessel.
Rule number 16. Action by give-way vessel. A give-way vessel is intended to keep out of the way of another vessel. Early and substantial action to keep well clear.
Rules number 17. Action and stand on the vessel. When from any cause, the vessel required to keep her course and speed find herself so close, the collision cannot be avoided by the action of the giveaway vessel. Alone, she shall take such action will be the best aid to avoid collision. As long as a giveaway vessel taken on action well in the time, there is no problem and stand on the vessel, follow above the rule, and stand vessel required not to take action, but does not mean that should be not be alert and monitor situation. Rules number 18. Responsibility in the following vessel. Follow explanation. Vessel constrained by her draft, any vessel except that vessel not under command or restricted in her ability to maneuver, must avoid impeding the safe passage of a vessel constrained by her draft and exhibiting the signals mentioned in Rule 28. And any vessel except vessel not under command and restricted her ability maneuver must avoid impeding the safe passage of a vessel constrained by her draft and exhibiting the signals mentioned in Rule number 28. The words if the circumstances of the case admit are included in Rule number 18 to take account of the fact that some vessel, particularly vessel engaged in fishing, may be unable to take effective avoiding action is sufficient time a vessel required to avoid impeding the safe passage of the vessel constrained by her draft must, if the circumstances of this case admit, take early the action allows sufficient sea room where the safe passage of the other vessel requires vessel constrained by her draft navigate with particularly equation having full regard to her special condition. Rule number 19. Conduct of vessel in restricted visibility. This rule applies to vessel not sight of one another when navigating in or near an area of restricted visibility. Every vessel shall proceed at a safe speed adapted to prevailing circumstances. Rules applies to such vessel that may be close to each other but cannot visually see each other. Electronic device as a sound signal may be the only possible means detection, and thus the action that would be taken would not be visible by other vessel. The area are not only areas or poor visibility, but also areas near to that, meaning that the ship should be carefully in approaching a fog bank or an area of poor visibility caused by maybe any weather condition for your ship.